Vikas, I request you to take on and continue the show. I'll join back in. And
Okay.
if anybody drops out, just use the same link and come back in. We're going into the broadcast now. And we're live now. Good evening, everyone. And
Good evening.
welcome to
Good evening.
LinkedIn Local Gurgaon. Hi, Vishal, Tapas,
Hi.
Gaurav,
Hi.
and Vikas. Great to
Hi.
see you guys.
Hi, Mohammed. Hi.
Same here.
The work from home has got extended beyond the initial 21 days. We are still at home. We have not reached back to offices. And this was a good time as any to discuss a topic which is engaging the country. If we want to be a Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have to find people who are willing to do just more than go to offices. We need entrepreneurs. We need people who are willing to risk it all. But is the entrepreneur part the only thing? Well, it's not. We found that there is another way, an entrepreneur. The spirit remains the same, but the organization support is available. And that is the discussion that we are doing today. A structure which appreciates innovation, which inspires new things and new levels to be reached. And here we have a stellar panel with us. Welcome to everyone again. And I would be starting with Vishal. The profiles are way bigger than I can introduce in just about 10 seconds. Suffice to say that he's heading the L&D vertical for Industars, and he's an institution. If you see his LinkedIn profile, you would know what I'm talking about. Follow him if you want to know what's happening in that sphere. I will be putting out the links to all the profiles in the comments. Do look them up. Next, we have Tapas. He is the SVP HR for Renew Power. I hope I got that right, Tapas.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And again, a very exciting field. It's a sector which is growing, and we know that the announcements in this field are only going to keep increasing. The opportunities, therefore, are also going to be there. Coming on to Gaurav now, as we heard the initial interaction when the panel was getting together, that he is not just with a startup or a health startup, he is with a very successful and a startup which is doing very well. So Gaurav, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
Last but not the least, Vikas, I can call you a friend, a mentor, and a guide. Knowing that you are now also an author sort of makes the halo around your just behind you. I can see that it makes it that much larger. Hoping for some good inputs from you to the attendees.
Thank you. Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
As the attendees are joining in, we will just kickstart the conversation with a very basic question. What is an entrepreneur, and what are your views about it? What are the qualities which define entrepreneur? If I can start with Vishal.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Vikas, for getting me onto this forum. Really excited to be here. And entrepreneurship, the biggest example of entrepreneurship we have is Steve Jobs. He's the one who, took on the mantle within an organization to shape it up. And the qualities he demonstrated were independent mindedness, utilizing the resources of the organization in a different manner to lead it into different directions, ensure that there is a path created for himself and for the others to think differently. I think these three qualities in his first stint when he was working and before he got thrown out of the organization he was working for, I think that's the biggest example we have for entrepreneurship. The second example I have is my previous company, GE. That organization used to thrive on entrepreneurship. The whole piece was that we don't hire people for their skills, we hire people for their attitude and outlook. That's what GE was known for. And I'll add that Jack Welch himself, he always said the only business I know is plastics. However, he was the most successful and still is the most successful CEO in the world, which people try to copy, admire. imbibe inputs for him and created the leadership factory for the world. So entrepreneurship is, how do you evolve within the framework of the organization and take organization into directions which were not thought of before. So to me, that would be entrepreneurship.
Thank you. And a good number of attendees are already with us. More are joining in. And what we are just starting off is what are the qualities that define entrepreneur. We just heard Vishal, and coming on to you now, Tapas.
Tapas, we can't hear you. You're mute.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Thank you so much, Amit, for inviting me to the forum. And I'm deeply honored to have such a wonderful co-partners in this discussion, Vishal and Gaurav and Vikas. The thoughts that I have while you were asking this question actually made me think about a lot of things around what do I see the journey of Renew as well, because Renew has been in the space which we are doing a lot of things which is unique, and we have set up a kind of a portfolio which is unique for this industry to look at. I believe there are a couple of, and thanks Vishal for sharing your thoughts about the qualities of an entrepreneur. There are certain things which I was thinking about. I think the first thing which comes into mind is to be ambitious. I think ambition is something which I've seen in the mind of the entrepreneurs, right? They actually take through their ideas to a conclusion. And the second part which I've seen is that they are actually ahead of time. They can think about a bigger picture, right? They don't get limited with the smaller frame of pictures, right? I think so they are ahead of time. They are problem solver and they are collaborators. I think that is something which we look at in all the kind of entrepreneurs that we have seen. And fourth would be the approach is growth oriented. They don't limit their objective in just one domain. They're looking at opportunities which is getting created. And my fifth point would be out of the box thinking. I think that completely differentiates them with any other lot of employees that you see. Right. So I would put these 5 as the critical kind of qualities that are there in the entrepreneurs.
Thank you for that, Tapas. I'll request Gaurav to share his views on this now.
Right. So as an entrepreneur who's had 2 stints now, I think, and I'm fairly convinced about it, that the first quality that an entrepreneur needs to have is curiosity. I think unless you're driven by a sense of curiosity of what's happening and why is it happening, whether inside the company, inside the organization, or outside it, a sense of curiosity, I think, is super critical to become an entrepreneur and hopefully subsequently an entrepreneur. That's one. The second, in my mind, quality that an entrepreneur needs to have is being a self-starter. Now, if you believe that an organization, different teams will support you simply because you have thought of an idea, I think a lot of times people are mistaken there. So you need to, as an entrepreneur, you need to pick up your idea and build it through whatever support that you need. And the only person who can make it happen is you yourself. So self-starter is a super critical quality again for an entrepreneurship. And the third, and I wouldn't say it's a big one, but it is an important one, is ability to take risks. To become an entrepreneur. Now, why am I saying it's not a big one, though it is fairly significant? Because in entrepreneurship, you actually get the luxury of not taking too much of a risk. Your job is still there, probably. Your salary is still there. You just have picked up which have a very clear framed reference, like most other teams or most other divisions in the business. So in summary, it is about being curious, being a self-starter, and the ability to take risks is how I would define an entrepreneur.
Thank you for that, Gaurav. And now coming on to our dear friend Vikas. You are an example of entrepreneur who's become a author also now. So how do you rate your journey on this scale?
So again, Amit, most of the points have been covered, right, from Vishal to Gaurav, and kind of covered everything from curiosity to self-starter to, let's say, problem solver, out-of-box thinker. Now, my 2 bets would be on 2 words, which are passion and attitude. though Gaurav has covered something like somebody who's a self-starter, I would still slightly, so passion would be something wherein you're doing something out of that energy because you're interested in doing that particular activity. So I believe in my tenure of close to 2 decades of having worked with organizations, I have seen a lot of employees who are merely coming to work for their monthly salary. And that's a reality. So, but I always look back to the field of business or to the field of sports. Think about any sport. I mean, I've always been fascinated by lawn tennis and by the big three of Roger Federer, Djokovic, and Rafa Nadal. Or think of any sport. Would anybody have excelled in that particular sport without passion? Think of any businessman. So Vishal spoke about when he started off, spoke about Steve Jobs, or he spoke about Jack Welch. Think about any successful businessman. Would he have excelled without that passion within himself? So when I look back to my employee days, or when I look back, or when I talk to people about entrepreneurship, and again taking a cue from what Gaurav said, because you have that limited risk of still possibly keeping your job. So be passionate about whatever you're doing and get that into action. So passion and having the right attitude, I would classify these two as the most important attributes of an entrepreneur.
Thank you for that. And from what I saw the panelists begin the discussion, the point comes in that the person has to have passion, the professional has to exist with a vision and back it up with the energy. But what is it that a large organization can do to help such a professional? Because they have to be recognized still, they have to be supported still. Vishal, if I can ask you to share your thoughts on this.
The first thing an organization can do is have a clear charter for providing a path to such thought processes, and they happen in two ways. One is when you have strategic projects, you have new business lines which are coming up, and how do you carve out nominations, how do you solicit people who are your 4 raters and 5 raters, top raters, to come out and work on these projects. And through that, you pick it up, to come and deliver on these projects. However, the pertinent point is that what is in an organization, the first thing is when you are rating somebody high, are you rating them high only on performance, or you are rating them high on potential? And one of your potential parameters has to be what you were talking about: passion, being curious, ability to do much more than what your job description is all about. So to identify those people, and second, identify projects where you can, connect both of them. The other thing what organizations have successfully done, and the biggest example being IBM, they have a different, process for all these people who are entrepreneur and looking for different options to work on. IBM was a hardware company. It transformed into the technology giant it is. During that transition, what they actually did was they carved out a different process. They picked up people who were 4 and 5 raters. They gave them a different opportunity. So opportunity, rating mechanism, and third, providing them a different process that you will not be judged basis the traditional business. Your traditional business is running differently. You will be gauged differently. Failures are allowed. The biggest thing in entrepreneurship is that you have to allow for failures. You have to reward failure. All organizations which have rewarded failures have yielded result, whether it's GE, whether it's IBM, whether if you look at 3M, or you look at Apple, you look at Amazon or Google. But what we see is maybe 5 or 7% of the success. All these organizations have really carved out different paths, different people. These 3 pieces are the mainstay of a large organization, encouraging entrepreneurship.
Thank you for that. And to the attendees, we have received our first question from Manish. Thank you, Manish, for that. And to the rest of the attendees also, this interaction is happening with the panel and with you. So any questions that you have the Q&A box right there at the bottom of the screen. Please put in your questions over there, and we will be engaging with the panel on those questions. This is an interaction driven by you. And also, just to mention it here that any interaction that is going to be happening is going to be two-way. So the panel also will be interacting with you, and look out for exciting prizes at the end of the interaction for the top three there. Continuing on now, Tapas, if I can come on to you and ask a question. We have seen that you need a person with vision and energy and passion. And Vishal just mentioned about how the organization can encourage these individuals. Now, the point is, how do you find out, or how does a company find out who's the person that you want to put your bet on? Because, like it was said, that failure is definitely an option here. So, how do you make your choices?
Look, for this particular question, I will share with you the current practices that we do in my company, which is Renew Power. I think how do you identify entrepreneurs? There are ways and means of doing that, and especially it gets ingrained in the culture of an organization. While we can talk about entrepreneurship, but it is the culture of an organization which creates an environment for people and to showcase their capability, to create an environment where people come forward and take the ownership of driving certain projects. Now, in our company, we drive two of our major projects, which is called, one is called the Idea Box. Idea Box is an initiative whereby we put in certain themes around businesses where people respond by submitting their ideas and the way that will be achieved over the period of time, right? They come up with ideas, and not only they come up with an idea, they prepare a project proposal around that idea as to what all they will do, what will be the finances required, who would be responsible for supporting that particular idea, and how is it going to impact the businesses. You won't believe it has been amazing to have those kind of ideas coming in. Not only the ideas, the people who come forward and lead those ideas. So what we have done is not only we actually support the ideas, but we also make sure while the ideas come in, we provide mentors who would actually support the ideators to build up that complete plan around that particular idea, right? It's a business proposal, it's a financial kind of initiative, everything is worked on. Now, while we are also doing that, there is a day that is planned in our annual plan, which is called as the Innovation Day. When Innovation Day happens, there are these sets of people who come up with the complete hardcore material. They come up with some showcases. They come up with models, which is actually showcased to the entire world. And not only that is limited to people from Renew, but we invite the other kind of engineering college students, we invite the management students to come and experience that. How are we encouraging that part of it? So the fact remains, we not only, so this is a pattern of getting people out, because there may be a lot of people inside holding that they would have created an idea, but until unless you create a platform where they can come and showcase, it becomes too difficult, because there are inhibitions in the system. There are people who are based out of interior locations, right? How do we do that? So this is the way of identifying. Plus, in our various kind of discussion that we do in our, whether it's an appraisal discussion, whether it's a focus group discussion, whether we talk about certain challenges before the organization, the kind of ideation, we keep on inviting. We are pretty open, and we accept those kind of thoughts coming from people. I think it's all about in the culture of allowing people to come up and present their cases. And that has worked very well in my organization.
Thank you for that, Tapas. And I think what you talked about, the part of organization having the culture or identifying the right talent. Here, I would want to jump in with Vikas. What are these positive attributes? What do you think are these attributes which mark out a good organization which will do well when it comes to entrepreneurship? How will they be able to help the journey? Because there is a benefit here. You have a structure, you have an organization, they're putting their might behind you. So what are these positive attributes that you would be looking for in such an organization? Vikas.
So Amit, again, if I look back at the organizations that I have worked with and which possibly helped me to take the step towards entrepreneurship, I believe two things again stand out. One was the ability to have moved across roles. So luckily, of the 4 large organizations I worked with, I was able to move to different roles within the same organization in 3 of those organizations. I know of many organizations which are pretty rigid about the role that you are hired for, and you're only made for that role as per some of these organizations. But luckily, as I told you, so I moved in from, let's say, a strategic role to more of a planning role, then into CLM, then into analytics. And within one organization, I was able to move from, let's say, a retail sales to a channel sales. So many of these organizations I felt gave me that chance to traverse across roles. And this is very important when you move towards entrepreneurship, because if you've been only limited to one role for your life, or let's say only just two roles for your life, you do not have that necessary exposure. So when I look back at the attributes that an organization needs to have for them to be fostering entrepreneurship within the organization, definitely it is whether they allow people to move across roles. When I think about the major FMCG companies, I know of people who've been in, let's say, Marico or around HUL. Again, these are organizations which propel people to move from sales to branding to some of these organizations even to HR. So, are you really developing the person as a complete rounded personality, or are you only making a specialist out of that person? So, I believe that's pretty important when I look back at what an organization can do to really create that environment of entrepreneurship. So that's one thing. And secondly, again, I can look back at delegation. If I look back at some of my bosses, so certain people have let me work the way I am. We are all different people in terms of having different personalities. But if you really are able to delegate work or able to give that freedom to your subordinate to work the way he wants to, that really again builds up the confidence, and that again helps in the long run. So I really look at the aspects of right delegation and letting people evolve by making them work across different roles as some things which an organization should be doing.
And Vikas, I think the differentiation here is culture and leaders. The organization has all the right things. They have all the right intentions. They have the right culture. But would it be the leaders who make a difference? Gaurav, your views on this?
So the way I look at it, it is both. It is the culture as well as it is the leader. In terms of culture, and I think Tapas and Vishal have talked about it earlier. In terms of culture, the one thing that an organization needs to have is tolerance for failure, right? Extremely critical for an employee to feel that if he has failed in a new project or in an innovation project, it is okay to do so. To give you an example, Vikas and I worked both with Tata Docomo, Tata Teleservices, and the Tata Group across all its organizations has a set of annual events for employees, awards. One of them as a category is my failure. So you actually kind of go and submit in a structured format, what did you do and where did you fail? And the winner technically of that slot is actually rewarded. I mean, so that's how, a culture needs to kind of imbibe in an organization so that employees actually look forward to a set of awards. One of them is how did you fail, right? That's one. The second, I think, as an organization, as a culture, is the culture of safety net, which in some ways is about if I fail, my rating for the year will not go down, right? Especially in an innovation project. If I fail, then this carefully crafted career journey that I have planned for myself in the organization doesn't go awry. And that safety net is more of a cultural message than a leadership message alone. When you look at leadership, I think there are two big factors. Number one is sponsorship. We all look for signals, especially in a large organization. When you want an innovation project to succeed, when you want an entrepreneur to pick up a project and run with it, I think the biggest message needs to be, I as a leader am sponsoring this. I as a leader am driving this with the help of Mr. X or Miss X, right? And that's a message that leaders need to kind of very clearly pass on. The second message that a leader can pass on, or support that a leader can give, is resources. Now, very clearly, you can have an innovation project and you can say, sorry, but there's no funds for you. And I think that becomes a test of self-startership of that individual. But at the same time, it also derails the probable success of that project, innovation project. So two things from the leadership side, one is sponsorship, the other is resources, and two things from the culture side, one is safety net and the other is acceptance and probably celebration of failure.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Gaurav. In fact, this question, the way it came out, has been got from Vivek Chadda. I'm just reading it out. Great inputs by the panelists. I have been on both sides of the fence. I have seen that an entrepreneur is mostly in a do or die situation, and he is the primary driver to get things done. In a company, the employees have a safety net in terms of support system and a regular income. You, as the custodian of the company culture, he was asking this question about what are the cultural changes that you will have to make to enable more entrepreneurs in the real sense. I think, Gaurav, you have been able to take most of the inputs which were required by Vivek here. And I take it, Vivek, thank you for the question. And to other attendees also, we have about another 20 minutes to go. Please come on with the questions, because we will be putting a result out as to the best questions that the panelists decided. So they have to come in now. For my next question, I'm going to Vishal. When it comes to the various things that we have seen, a leader, organizational culture, a correctly identified entrepreneur, what are the conflicts that you foresee which could happen when it comes to strategy, resources, and there will be a few more tussles happening within the company also before the thing actually comes out as a final product, which it may come out as a failed product also. So how do you resolve these conflicts? What's your take on that? Vishal, request if you could unmute, please.
The two big things, Amit, which are there to resolve this is first the company structure and the company processes. Going back to the IBM example, you are a hardware organization and you have these bright, sparks, and I'll use a word which is design thinking. Design thinking is a complete aid to entrepreneurship, that this gives them a structured mechanism. You can look at young Turks in your organization from everywhere coming together, use the design thinking mechanism to bring out and innovate new ideas. However, if your structure is that you will have your midterm appraisal, you will have your annual appraisal, and the job description which was given to them, these entrepreneurship have a day job in the organization. You want to evaluate them on that. However, they have spent 80% of the time thinking and breathing the new IBM which they were looking at. Okay, and they go to their manager, and the manager tells them that, oh, you didn't deliver on this, or you were very average on this. And the person is saying, sir, I have worked so hard on these processes which will help me develop the organization into a technology company. And the manager, sorry, I have to rate you on this only because I don't have a mechanism where I can give you marks for this. Right? You're an average performer. This is a very real scenario happening at 80% of the organization, that because when a person is in an organization for a number of years, they become functionally agnostic. Okay, they actually, what they do is they diversify, they form, they become a part of different teams, and they participate there in different projects. So your structure and your processes have to be aligned where they can reward these processes. I think this is one of the biggest reasons for entrepreneurship not working in organizations. We all want it. We all want everybody to come and contribute. Okay, Vikas is an entrepreneur, and Gaurav has said he has been on the both sides of the fence. You want every employee to own it and come and contribute, grow himself and grow the organization. But if your structures are rigid, you cannot have done that. I think, to me, structure is there, and third is so structure, processes, and third is teamwork. Do you encourage team performances, or you only reward individual brilliances? If you're rewarding individual brilliances, the whole concept of entrepreneurship will fail, because The entrepreneur hasn't done it all alone. The tools, resources, what we say, it's not the money which the person is using. He's using or she is using the resources which are available. If you do not have a collective mechanism of rewarding, again, this may fail. So 3 things, again, I'm repeating it. The culture has to be of, a structure. How do you structure them? Give them a leeway in the structure, not hard bound. Second is your processes. And third is how do you have a culture of team rewarding?
Thank you for that, Vishal. Tapas, I would request you to also add your views on this. We also have a question which is coming from Manish. How do you overcome the organizational inertia and resistance which is caused due to mainstream products, oblique services which are already delivering results? I think it's the same thing which is coming in. How would a company support an entrepreneur who's likely to fail, and how do they judge him? The same issues which Vishal was mentioning. How does a company resolve this conflict?
So this question is from me, Amit.
Yeah, Tapas, if you could just add on to the part about how to resolve these conflict of a company structure rewarding an entrepreneur for the day job that they're doing or for the extra initiative that they're taking, be it with strategy, be it with resources, be it with just guidance and leadership. How do you resolve this conflict there?
So I can talk about my experience of my previous company, and especially because we have been in telecom and we have seen this happen in that. So in many of the companies, what they do is their part of the care is purely based on projects, right? They just mention very clearly that 20% of your care will be valued basis the kind of projects, basis the kind of initiative, basis the kind of work that you do other than your routine work, which you have been assigned to do that. And that actually works wonders because the fact is it becomes ingrained, and what Vishal said, part of the culture, because that culture says until unless you do or deliver something new to what you are doing today, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because you would be judged basis those 20%, you will be judged on those projects by some people who are from different functions. That gives you an opportunity to move around from one role to the another, one function to the another. So I think that becomes part of your routine, because if that is the kind of mandate that you will have to do something different and you have to think something different, then it works wonder. And that is something which I've experienced in my previous companies.
Thank you for that, Tapas. I'll be coming on now to Gaurav. We have a combination of 2 questions. I'm taking in the primary one, which is coming from Preeti. What are the mindset changes or the shift required to move from entrepreneur to an entrepreneur? I think what she's trying to find out is what is the gap when an employee decides that it's not working out, staying in the organization, he's not able to fulfill in a way his destiny, his or her destiny, and they have to strike out and try it on their own.
Okay, so let me put it as 3 variables: risk, resources, and freedom. Okay, when you look at entrepreneurship, I think it's a good combination, and typically it should be the first port of call for any employee, because in entrepreneurship, your risk is slightly lower. You're still on a job, you get a salary. Resources are fairly, at your disposal, unless the organization doesn't believe in your idea. So you'll get the resources. So it's a good combination of lower risk and higher resources. But I think the key variable that changes that turns the table here is freedom. Because you might have lower risk, you have the safety of a salary, you might have higher resources, but I think it is the freedom to take decisions, freedom to create something which actually kind of moves you from a scale of not being an entrepreneur, which is just another salaried employee and nothing wrong in that, to becoming an entrepreneur, and then finally making the jump to becoming an entrepreneur. So I think it is a combination of risk, resource, which will always stack up better on the side of entrepreneurship. But once you have that sense that you do not have the freedom to make the decisions that you need to, or there is an idea that goes way beyond what your entrepreneurship project is all about, is probably the time when you will make that shift from being an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur.
Can I add here, if it's okay with you, Amit? One line.
Go for it.
When you are making that shift from entrepreneur to entrepreneur and going on your own, the key difference is you can be an entrepreneur by selling your time. You're still selling your time within the organization and you're getting paid for it. But when you are moving on to becoming an entrepreneur, there is your time, there is your money, and all the affiliated commercial risks and government compliances which come on your head.
Absolutely.
So realize when you are making that shift to being an entrepreneur, you do factor in that your passion might be X. However, there are 3 or 4 more black clouds or black circles which come along with it unintentionally as a add-on. You will have to spend time and energies to handle them only, however mundane they are. So when you are making that shift, look at it. Are you going to sell your time again? Then you are going to be constrained by all these black clouds I'm talking about, or it is a big idea which can outlive your time. So those two considerations are huge when you're talking about moving from an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur.
That's a very good addition. I mean, I actually can relate to what you talked about. Sure.
Okay. Questions are coming in thick and fast. Elton, thank you for the question. Richa, Manish, again, another question has come in from there. We have a healthy number of participants. Thank you, George, Kriti, Manish, Narayan, Neeraj, and Dilip. The question that I will be picking on now is from Richa. Vikas, sorry. I'd already done with Vishal. Vikas, the question comes across to you. This is about fire in the belly. Elton, this is your question. Companies have to find mentors within organization who will make the subordinates find the fire in the belly moment, that realization that something has to be done. This would make them find their true worthiness. Should companies invest in mentorship programs for entrepreneurship? And here I think I would add a question which is coming from Richa Mutwani. Why do public sector companies, why are they averse to entrepreneurship? I think it's more of a culture thing there. And if you could take on these two questions, how do you mentor? How do you sort of have that culture, right, mix going on? Vikas.
So I believe this has been more or less answered by Vishal and Tapas, this particular question, when they talk about those structures and the processes within the organization. So definitely now with the evolving times, the business models will not be the same beyond, let's say, 5 or 7 years. Every organization would need to keep evolving every couple of years. Now, so to make that really happen, you have to have those flexible structures in place, and you ought to have the spirit of entrepreneurship flowing in. Again, as Gaurav pointed out, more as both as a culture and as part of leadership. So I definitely see a lot of merit in this. Interestingly, I came across a new word today, which is known as intergenerational mentoring. I came across this word for the first time, and this is through a research associate from IIM Indore. So this is not my terminology, and I was kind of new to this. And I got to know about what intergenerational mentoring is. And this could be something like wherein even a younger participant becomes a mentor to somebody who's senior to him. So gradually, I see that really happening, wherein people who are experienced in a particular field take on that role of mentorship. And that's how organizations should be moving forward. So that's what my take is.
Thank you for that, Vikas. We have had an amazing interaction coming in. Thank you, Elton, for the question. Thank you, Richa and Manish. I will be requesting the other attendees also to pose in their questions. We have a few more which are coming in. Please understand that we are extremely short on time, and we will be taking this interaction further beyond this the Zoom activity. Please reach out to the panelists. I will be putting out their links on the post. Reach out to them, interact with them, follow them. As I said, that Vishal, Tapas, Gaurav, and Vikas, their LinkedIn streams are a revelation and a learning process, both almost together. Before we come to a close, I will be asking the panelists to frame a question for the attendees. this would be something of an engagement that you are trying to get the attendees to do. And again, I would start with Vishal. What is your, in a way, question or engagement that you want with the attendees?
Sorry, come again, Amit. I lost you in the middle.
Yeah, Vishal, this is about what we had discussed, that what is it that you would want the attendees to sort of find out for themselves about the journey of entrepreneurship? What is it that you would want them to find out? What's your question to the attendees?
Okay. All right. What has been the, two things which have led Steve Jobs and Apple to great heights? This is my question to you. So what are the two things which have led Steve Jobs and Apple to great heights?
Thank you for that question, Vishal. I think the attendees would be really engaged with this one. Coming on to you now, Tapas.
Okay, my question will be, what is that appetite that differentiates between entrepreneur and the entrepreneur?
Thank you for that, Tapas. Coming on to you now, Gaurav.
Okay, so my question to the attendees is relatively simple. I mentioned an organization which actually has an annual award category about failures. How did I fail? Which organization or group are we talking about here?
Okay. I think people will be rushing to Google after this. Vikas, for your question, please.
So I spoke about one or two interesting aspects. Not interesting, I spoke about two attributes which I feel are very important to be an intrapreneur and obviously again to be an entrepreneur. Which two attributes did I emphasize upon? Now for people who had joined in early, I mean, this was, I believe, the early part of our conversation, especially the question that Vishal had asked and the question that I am posing to the participants. So if they're not joined in early, they might not be knowing what we discussed about.
Well, we'll have the YouTube stream up and running in some time. I'll request the attendees to look at it more and engage with the network. This has been an amazing discussion and amazing interaction between the panel and the attendees. And though we would love to take in the conversation much more, time will be the factor here. I will now be asking for the closing remarks from the panel. Vishal.
To me, if you have to be an entrepreneur, keep on looking out within the organizations. Do not, if you want to actually take anything from this conversation and you are looking at organizations where you want to be an entrepreneur, reach out. It's always good to reach out to different people and say that, you can find a particular fault in somewhere and you may want to fix it. You may start with a small sample and have a proof of concept and communicate it well. You will have to reach out. There is no, you might be a great person. You may have 200 ideas, but you are not forthcoming. You don't want to talk to people about what you can see and you don't want to connect to people. Entrepreneurship will fail. However good you are, if you do not have that, I'll use the word which you have used, fire in the belly, or that urge to make a difference, and you don't reach out, it will never happen. All what we have spoken about, processes, curiosity, attitude, everything will go out till the time you don't communicate and you sit in the back chair and say, oh, I could have done this better. This function could have run that way if I was given the charge. No, nobody will give you any charge. Always look at asking for, you can always ask for apologies rather than asking for permission. Don't ask for permission. Entrepreneurship doesn't need permission. It's fine if you fail or somebody feels you're entering their turf. It's okay. I'm so sorry. You can always come back. But if you keep on asking for permission, I think you'll never recover. So that is one thing I would, say in the entrepreneurship journey, because similar to any entrepreneur will tell you, they don't ask for permission to customers. If they have to open a shop of a sari shop, they don't ask the customer, should they keep Kanjivaram sarees, silk sarees, or cotton sarees? They decide, boss, I am going to sell all kinds of sarees. It's available for you. You have to have a similar mindset that It's you who will decide the market, not anybody else.
Thank you. Strong words there, Vishal, and strong advice to those who want to walk this path. Tapas.
Thank you, Vishal. And I agree completely with whatever he said. I think the most important element here would be your personal beliefs, right? And they should become your guiding principles when you take up that opportunity. I think what he said is right. It is your own initiative that you will have to take things forward. Asking permissions won't work. I think take the lead and take it and make it happen. I think completely on that area. Thank you so much.
Amit, you're on mute.
So
I believe, yeah, we just might have.
Should I go next then? Okay, fair.
Yeah, Gaurav, we just might have lost Amit. Yeah, right.
Yeah. In terms of closing comments, I saw a question here which said, how do I get funding for my intrapreneurship project? And I think the first thing that we all need to realize, both for intra as well as entrepreneurship, is you cannot have too many preconditions to it. I think you'll have to begin always believing that there will be a couple of elements missing. You might have the passion, but you might not have the money, which is what happened to me in my first entrepreneurial stint, which I had to shut down after 2.5 years. Or you might have the money, but you are not still sure if this is what you want to do, which again, has that issue of not being able to drive that idea all the way through, either as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur. And the third is, it is my passion. I enjoy doing it. I'll get support for it. But is there a market big enough in the world for me to succeed, either as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur? So I think fundamentally, the idea very clearly will be that you cannot have all the conditions going for you before you take the call of, I'll become an entrepreneur. There will be some amount of black holes. There will be some amount of missing information, and you will have to go for it despite those gaps.
Thank you for that, Gaurav. A bit of a technical issue here. We lost slide and the UPS at the same time. But thank God I'm back. And Gaurav, the answer to the question that you had posed, is it Tata Docomo?
That's right.
Risha Mudvani, I think you get the prize there. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Vikas, coming in with your closing comments now.
So I have two comments. When I talk about being either an entrepreneur or let's say subsequently an entrepreneur, I obviously look at, are you learning? Are you really learning every day of your life? And when I look back at learning, so in my tenure, I obviously have learned a lot from Gaurav. Gaurav has been an avid reader of books, and Amit, in fact, I got into the habit of reading only because of Gaurav. So now, thanks, Gaurav, right? So, surprisingly, so my book got released about a month back, and I don't have too many acquaintances in US apart from, let's say, my IIM graduates or a couple of my engineering classmates. But the book has sold more in US than in India.
Oh.
With me having, let's say, a network of at least a couple of 100 or 1,000 people in India versus hardly tens of people in US. So the book has sold more in US than in India. Now, what does that tell me? That really tells me about whether are we ready to learn, or are we really learning anything. Now, I'm not saying that the book is only the form of learning that one knows of, but book definitely is one form of learning. Are we really investing in our education? That's very important. Now, as an employee, people just might be interested in the domain they're working in. But if you really are willing to be an entrepreneur, willing to be curious enough, willing to venture out into certain new areas, you need to be learning new things across different verticals, not just be confined to your work domain. So are we really spending time and money on our education? Or are we just looking at the organization to nominate us for a training program and be attending that program? So I believe one aspect which I look back is we need to spend more money on our personal education and spend more time on our personal education. That will really help us broaden our horizons. And second thing, which I look back, I've been really fortunate to have spent about 6 or 7 years of my life in sales profession. believe me, if this is one thing which I'm really passionate about, and whenever I speak to the students, be it in a B school or in an engineering college, I just advise them one thing: spend a few years of your life in sales. And so I see Gaurav is again all smiles because we've spent a considerable amount of our corporate life in sales. Now, I'm not saying again it's mandatory. I'm not saying that, but if you really are thinking of branching out at some point of time in your life, believe me, the first thing that you'll face is rejection. That hits you hard, rejection.
Absolutely.
And the only savior at that point in time is if you spend some time in sales, you have been rejected 100 or 1,000 times, and you're not afraid to be rejected 1,001st time. That's the only difference. I'm not saying we've done something phenomenal.
There is a saying in retail. Sorry, can I come in, Vikas?
Sure, sir.
Okay, so if you are selling, Reckitt Benckiser, or you are selling, Unilever products, you may have roam around in the auto the whole day, covering 100 shops. You may not have sold. If you have missed that one shop, okay, the last shop, maybe that was the one which was going to take your product. So, that thing is easier said than done, what I'm saying. But when you have to go through it and sitting in that auto the whole day, you realize that what sale is all about.
Sir, I have spent time in an auto. Incidentally, I did my summers with HUL in Mumbai and covering just the entire city from Kolaba to just about whichever suburbs I know of.
I have done it in Kanpur. Yeah. My father owns a soap business, so I have done it for many years and sat on that auto. It's a very different experience. I can relate that.
So we have a senior HR person. Yes.
Because I think what we get here is we get number one. We are looking at people with experience who have done it and who are telling you that you're not going to succeed in the first try. You're going to have to accept failure. You're going to have to accept the fact that you may not get the support that you're looking for. You may not even get what you're looking for, and you may not even know what you're looking for when you're being an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. But the basic thing is never give up. Never give up. The sort of energy which I got from the panel and from the questions that we got from the attendees, we would be calling a stop to the evening now, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Manish. Thank you, Elton. Thank you, Richa, for the questions which came in. You will be getting a surprise in the inbox pretty soon. And for the rest of the attendees, also engage with us, engage about this event and how it inspired you with us on LinkedIn. And there will be more prizes to be won, even with that engagement. We thank our mysterious sponsor who is responsible or the benefactor for these prizes, and I heartily thank him. And I thank the panel, Vishal, Tapas, Gaurav, and Vikas. It's been an amazing evening. The attendees, thank you for your interaction. Till next time, thank you. Goodbye and good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Thank you so much.
Aman.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I didn't know how to stop the view. I could only tell them to stop and go because
attendees are still here. These are still here.
I just request them to come back.